Hey guys, welcome to Electronic Dance Money, your number one business resource for making money as electronic musicians and producers. All right, we are ready. This is going to be an awesome episode. This is one that I've been working on in the works, going back and forth, trying to get a hold of this guest, but we got a hold of him. And today I've got Frankie Urrea in. You also might know him from Zen World, his fucking incredible YouTube videos, YouTube channel, actually, shit tons of tutorials on there. And then his business, Evolution of Sound, Evo Sound, which he sells and primarily does a shit ton of sound packs as well. What's up, Frankie? How you doing?
Hey, what's up? I'm doing really good. How about yourself?
Not too bad, man. Funny enough, you did a sound pack for Hexagon.
Oh yeah.
Dude, have you done multiple?
No, I've only done one for Hexagon.
I use that sound pack more than just about any other sound. I mean, almost on every single track. I just finished a track last week and I used, I think, 3 or 4 sounds from that, which are the main elements of my track. It's one I go back to very consistently, and I'm sure there's tons of other producers that say the same thing as well.
Oh yeah, dude, that pack was really fun to make. I think I collabed on that with another YouTuber. His name is Styx. So he has a lot of viewers as well, and he does really cool FLP remakes. But yeah, that pack was awesome to make. I think at the time I was just really into the Don Diablo sound from his label Hexagon. You know, that solid and all that. So yeah, really, really good pack. It was fun to make, and I'm glad to hear that you're utilizing it and using it for music. That's what the packs are for. So
yeah, exactly. I feel like a lot of producers are afraid to get, so wow, why am I blanking on the name? Wow, I am blanking
Serum.
So hard here. Not Serum, the website. Wow, why am I Splice. Jesus Christ. I can't believe why I'm blanking on Splice. I feel like when Splice first came out, a lot of producers were like, sick, this is perfect. We're got a shit ton of sounds I can get really cheap. I'll jump in. But now I'm actually feeling resistance on people being like, I don't want to go on Splice because everyone's on Splice. Do you feel the same way?
I feel a little bit towards that. I mean, I love Splice. I think it's awesome. I use it a lot, mainly for vocals and whatnot. But when it comes down to, let's say when I'm making music, Splice is more of an alternative. I like to buy my sample packs straight out, and I like to go for packs that are super niched. So that way when I buy the pack, I know what I'm getting with it. So like you mentioned Hexagon, one of the things I do with the packs on Evo Sounds is that I always niche them down. I always want the people buying it to know what it's for. And sort of the reason I do that is because I don't want people making other stuff to go on and buy the pack. You get me? Because they're going to think it sucks if they're coming from a different aspect of music. A lot of them are thinking, oh, this better have, like, let's say 808s and whatnot. But at the end of the day, that's not what the pack is about. So the thing with Splice for me is just too many options. So you get a little bit of choice paralysis. And again, I'd rather just go to good companies I trust that will give me what I want. And I know every pack I buy, there's going to be a lot of useful stuff in there.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. So I kind of going off of what we were just talking about before we started recording, the imposter syndrome thing. So what I do feel like I see is the younger producers that are now afraid to go on Splice because they feel like everyone's on Splice. And a part of that, I think, goes into imposter syndrome and them feeling like someone's going to know I use this sound. They're going to call me out. They're going to call me a fake, blah, blah, blah. And then on the flip side, though, I know older producers who are in their early to late 30s who are all like, Splice is the best fucking thing. Because when they were producing in 2005, there was nothing like that. It was so difficult to get clean new samples. But now it's like at your fingertips, you can get 100 within 10 minutes.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's the thing. Splice is amazing, man. Honestly, I agree. It's heavily overused. But the thing with it is that, if you take time to actually dive into it rather than just going with the popular options, because on Splice there's like a setting, right? Popular, just released, relevant. Usually what I
Cashmere.
do, yeah,
all cashmere.
usually what I'll do is I'll just go on released, like the newest ones that have came in, and I'll dive deep into it. But like I said, Splice for me is more supplemental. Let's say I need something specifically, I'll look it up on there and just dive into it. I feel like I'm going through some crates trying to find like the right drum loop, or let's say I have a song and like it's like, I'm missing a top line, but I'm just stuck. I don't know what's gonna work on it. Go on Splice, look for some synth loops to put on top. At least then I'll know, okay, this kind of vibe can work, and vice versa, especially if you're blanking out all the time, man.
Right. Well, I think a lot of producers too avoid the editing of loops too. Like it's really easy and creative to go in, find a really nice top line synth loop, pull that into your track. You don't necessarily need to use the entire loop, but you can cut it up. You can cut it up, do really cool effects with it, and come up with something. And then you can also drag that into Serum and create something with that as well. So you can get really creative with a lot of these ready to go loops and samples that you can just boom grab right out the box.
That's totally right, man. That's totally right. And Ableton has, because that's what I use, Simpler. I love that thing because you can do exactly what you just said. You can get the sample and spread it out, chop it up, and then you set it to it. Ableton sets it automatically to certain keys. So essentially, you can use the loop melody and just play on the keyboard and get different melodies out of it depending on what notes you're hitting. You just got to make sure you know what key you're in, etc. And the cool thing about this is, we're talking about Splice. There's also a company called Arcade that came out with, Output that came out with Arcade. And I'll be honest, I think they got inspired heavily by Simpler from Ableton, because that's essentially what it is, just a bunch of loops, right? But you shoot them off with different keys, and you can get some very interesting stuff that other people wouldn't think of doing. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah. Ableton's really crafty in that sense, where they just, they come up with, they're always cutting edge. They're always coming up with, new ways to just do it's almost like they're not reinventing any wheels either. They're just creating new and intuitive stuff that just works through and through. It just always fucking works. Live 10 was crazy. I went to a demo of Live 10 right before it released with my buddy Noah, and it was the first time I had taken a deep dive into Ableton, and I was like, Jesus, this isn't. And then they were also showcasing the Push 2. I was like, what the fuck is this? Is insane. This is revolutionizing how you produce music through and through.
Yeah, man. Ableton king at audio manipulation. That's what I tell people and my students. Like, you got to switch to Ableton if you're trying to make future bass and you like doing those vocal chops on top. Go Ableton. It's so much easier to do stuff in the manipulation on audio. That's
racks alone is a massive reason why I would want to switch to Ableton. But I tell people the same thing whenever I'm talking to producers who are new or want to be a producer. I always tell I use Cubase. I'm a dedicated Cubase user. I'll probably always use Cubase. But I always tell people get on Ableton. I just know Cubase through and through, that my workflow is on fire. I can get a track done in just a few hours and I'm good. My workflow is really clean on it. Granted, I'm sure if I took the time to learn Ableton, it would be even faster, which I am interested in getting Ableton and slaving Cubase to it so I can have the best of both worlds. Yeah. Anyways, let's dive into your background a little bit. Give us the scoop. What's the story? Where did you start from, getting your first DAW, getting your first computer or whatever, to where you're at, launching a sound design business, having, I would arguably say, one of the biggest YouTube channels in the EDM world? How did you get there?
Oh man, you got to cue nostalgic music or something.
Yeah, I'll play some nice piano nostalgic music here.
Yeah, please post. You know what? It's it all started, man. Seriously, I was a kid, 2004. I can't recall what age I was, but I was at Fry's Electronics, which is a electronic department store, and again, I didn't have any intention on making music or anything. And I was walking down an aisle, the software aisle, where all the games were and all the software was. And I saw this program called Magic's Music Maker 2004. And told my parents, can I get this? Can I get this? At the time, I already liked DJing because here in LA, we have this radio station called Kiss FM. And at night, they would always play they would always have a DJ just playing mixes. And I always loved the way he would mix from song to song. Like just hearing one song's instrumental with a vocal coming in from another song and all that. So I was already doing a little bit of DJing. But once I saw that, I was like, I got to get it. So I bought it, took it home, and messed around with it. The good thing is that program came with a bunch of loops, man. Like CDs, like bunch of loops. It was a techno CD. I think they had a reggae one, an R&B one, and maybe a hip hop one. And yeah, I started with that, and I would just hit like the auto generate button, which would just like jumble mambo all the loops in, like synth drums to make like a song. And I thought I was the shiznits and all that.
You're a producer. Yeah. There you go. Done.
There you go, man.
Wrap it up. Let's call
That's it. Yeah, so I messed with that until I finally met a friend at school that was actually doing it, and he's like, you got to try Reason out. So I don't know what Reason was out at the time, but that's the next I got into.
That was early Reason.
Yeah. And in all honesty, it looked cool. I like the whole hardware aspect of it, but I'm not gonna lie. If I try to do something on there, like do a side chain or just do stuff, you have to. Back then, you had to just grab the cables and know what you were doing with it. So yeah, definitely the workflow on it wasn't the greatest, but then I messed around with that a bit until finally that same friend switched over to Ableton, and that's where I got into Ableton. And yeah, I had so much more fun with Ableton, man. I guess Reason is good for the people that have that hardware background. For me, Ableton was just right, so I've been with it since then. And I want to say it was like 2008 when I moved to Ableton.
Ableton's when you go from Reason, something like Reason, to Ableton, it's almost like you're in this new uncharted territory, this new world, because you're more free for creativity.
Definitely.
There's way more you can do, like just in terms of whatever it is that you want to do.
Definitely, man. So, that was mainly it. So that's when Ableton really changed it for me. Time I was making trance, and then 2010 came along. And then that's when I really picked it up, picked it up. I was out of high school, so I had all this time going to college and whatnot. So yeah, just working on music. Time was like trance, big room, all of that good stuff. But then eventually, I was like, okay, I'm making all this music, which I don't think was that good. But again, I think most producers always say like, I never think it's good enough, right? And I was like, you know what? I need to get an audience for my music. So how can I do that? So I started looking at YouTube. I was a huge fan of it. And I back then I used to watch these tutorials by Boy in a Band. He used to make like Reason tutorials and all that. So that's where I learned a lot of Reason stuff as well. And I was like, you know what? I can do that. But then again, I was like, how can I do it differently? What are people talking about on YouTube? And the biggest thing was sound design. So same time, around the same time from like 2010, since I was making trance, I would go to the Anjuna Beats forum all the time. Which was a good forum, but a bunch of snobs as well.
Like a Reddit?
Exactly, man. So I don't know what time, but essentially they would talk a lot of smack on people utilizing presets and sound packs and stuff like that. I think Skrillex came out with Scary Monsters and Nice Sprites, right?
Yeah.
And there was a whole thread on there about how Skrillex utilizes just bass one-shot samples and massive presets and all that. And yeah, they were just talking smack on the guy. Back then, I was like, if I ever get big, I don't want people to say that about me. I want to make sure they know I made everything from scratch and whatnot. So I learned a lot of sound design, man. So around 2014 is again the time where I was just like, I need to create an audience for this music so that when I release stuff, people care about it. Because sadly, a lot of artists come on and they'll just release stuff expecting people to care. And you got to look at it from that point of view. It's like a brand in sense. If no one knows who you are, why are they going to care? So I was like, YouTube, we can do it. What can I offer? So I was like, well, most people that like dance music are music producers, right? They're going to be the biggest fans of it. So let's make some essentially preset tutorials for them. So back then I was into trance. So that was like my first video. I think it was like on YouTube was the Origin Nilsson lead tutorial. So I taught how to do that. And then from there, it didn't do that well, like 2,000-3,000 views over time. But I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna do that because I started seeing people started coming on, and I just kept doing that. Eventually, I was like, all right, what's big? Big room. We got Epic, Sandro Silva,
Yeah, dude.
yeah,
Quintino.
the massive pluck of death, I call it, with a bunch of reverb, and yeah, I just started doing that, man, doing that. Eventually, my channel grew to around 15-20,000. And this is where I got the first sample pack company to reach out to me. Is because back then I didn't know you could make a living off what I do right now at the moment, selling sound banks and presets. The company's name was called Shockwave Samples, which they've been doing it for a while back then. And essentially they told me, hey, let's make a silent one sound bank since you got a good following with this. And I was like, all right, let's do it. What do you want me to do? They're like, just make a pack with a bunch of sounds like big room inspired and you're good to go. So I made that pack for them, and that's how I started essentially getting into this business I'm in now. And it did really good. I was looking at the sales coming in. I would get the email notifications, and I was like, oh, I'm making so much money. Not knowing business side of stuff.
Yep.
Not
the
knowing
taxing,
yeah, but past the taxing too, it's the way distribution works and all that, the fees that come with that, man. So at first, I was like, they're selling the sound bank. We're going to split it half and half, me and Shockwave Samples. And I was like, all right, 3,000 sales in a week. So $3,000 worth of sales. That was the first thing. So I was like, all right, there's money in this. But the thing with Shockwave Samples that I didn't like was that they didn't have their own website, and they were using essentially a distributor. So for instance, if you have like a label like Anjuna Deep or Anjuna Beats, and they put their music on Beatport, Beatport's a distributor, so they're going to distribute the music, right? And Beatport, or whoever it is, we can say Producer Loops at the time, charge 50% right out of the get-go, no matter what. And essentially, Shockwave Samples was putting the packs on Beatport, Producer Loops. They did really good. They got to the #1 spot in the respective category. And when my payment finally came, yeah, it was like not what I was expecting.
You got more like 25% than
exactly.
Yeah.
25, dude. And I was like, oh fuck, I was like, I thought I was making all this
yeah,
dope.
it's a little disappointing.
Yeah, exactly. So I just like whatever. So it did really good. They were like, let's do volume 2. So we did volume 2, did just as good, etc. Volume 3. But around this time is where I was kind of like, you know what? I have a huge following on YouTube. This sample pack company, I don't see value in what they're giving me. It's because all they're doing is putting it on Producer Loops and Beatport for me, and they're taking 25% out of the get-go. And then Producer Loops and Beatport are taking 50%. And at the time, I wasn't happy either because Producer Loops and Beatport weren't promoting it. Like, they weren't putting it in specific spots that I wanted them to be at. So I'm paying these guys 50% of that income coming in from the sales, cost to do business, but is it worth it for me? And again, at this time, I didn't know what I was worth. I didn't know business at all. So I was like, you know what? It is what it is. So yeah, eventually I was like, you know what? Why don't I just start my own sample pack company? What do I need to do? So that's when I started reading about it. And it was simple, right? Just make a website, essentially go and sign up as a business, respective county that you're in. So that's how it started. So I did my first pack by myself, Silent One Revolution Volume 1. And it did just as good as those volumes. But this time, I sold it myself through, I believe it was Selfie. And I also put it on Producer Loops. So again, I'm giving a bit of income away there. But it did good, and I didn't have to
retained an additional 25, what, like 20 or 50, 25 to 50%?
Exactly. Like I made more, and I was happy with it. But again,
almost instantly doubled your income.
Yeah, pretty much. So, and again, it comes from that value. I feel like for sure, if you're somebody starting out and there's a good like company or label that you can get your stuff out on, it's worth it because you're paying for that exposure. But at that time, I just didn't know that. Like I was just clueless about all of this stuff. So then finally, I was like, you know what? I need to take this seriously. So I started reading business books and all that. Like I think a good business book I read was Content Marketing, which talks about what essentially I was already doing and I didn't even know. And then I read books on how to sell stuff, how to get people to buy your stuff, etc., online marketing and whatnot. A lot of it I didn't like because I hate hard sell tactics. So I like the content marketing. I was already doing it and it was working for me. So I was like, that's what I'm going to stick with. Anyways, I was still going to college and not taking it like full time. Seriously, man. And then my wife, girlfriend at the time, she tells me, why don't you drop out of school and go all out at it? Like, just try it out. What do you have to lose? I'm like, all right, we'll do 1 semester break. So I finally doubled down on it. I did a bigger pack because the packs I was making, I guess I didn't know my worth. I was selling them for $15-20. Did a bigger pack for $50. And the first month of that pack being released, I think the income was like $14,000 in sales. And again, this time I released everything myself. I didn't include producer loop, Speedport, no label, just my label. And yeah, I got to keep most of that. So now it's like, there's money here.
Now, when you made that big producer pack, $50 a pack, did you have more sales in terms of you sold more copies than the previous packs that were cheaper?
Yeah. So that was crazy.
Yeah, and there's a couple of really interesting things happening there. One is the value. So like in value in terms of price. So this is something that the 6-figure home studio I was telling you about before talked about a lot. This is something that I talk about a lot. I think this was something I might have mentioned in the previous podcast episode that I did as well, which was about starting a mixing and mastering studio. So I own a mixing and mastering studio. That's pretty much all I do for EDM producers. And really early on, what I was charging for mixes, I'm embarrassed to even say now, but I was charging $45 for a full mix. Full mix. And this was when I was just starting though. So again, same like you, I didn't know my value. I didn't think I was making that great of mixes. So I was like, lowball it is all hell. And the issue with that is I got really shitty producers. So like I was getting really shitty tracks. So I was trying to make really shitty tracks sound really good, which was a great learning experience. That was probably when I learned the most. That's when I got really good at mixing. But you also get these nightmare clients. You know, you get these people who want to pay for a cheap thing. So they're going to get a cheap thing and they have all these expectations and it can cause a lot of issues. As soon as I started raising my rate is way higher now. But as soon as I started raising my rate, and more significantly, like back in May, I raised my rate, started running a lot more ads, and I immediately was getting quality producers hitting me up, wanting mixes and masters, really good tracks, way easier to mix. I knew exactly where to take that stuff, and I was making more. And so there's this, when you raise the price of something like that, if you showcase something that was $25-30 and then you go, oh, this one's $50, a lot of the times if they were getting a price, a product at a much cheaper rate and they were like, this is fucking incredible, and then you go, this one's $50, they're going to think I was getting this quality at $25-40. Now what am I going to get at $50? It's very similar to if anyone goes to webinars. Webinars give out the best free content that they have. They usually give away their best stuff for free. So you're going to learn something really good in an hour. And then they're going to at the end of it, they're going to say, hey, we've got this course. Do you want to join this course? And most of the time, people immediately buy in because they got a really good piece of free content immediately. So they're thinking that in their head. They're going, okay, this is free. What's in the paid content? And so they're much more likely to dive in on that. But then the other thing too is that I think is really interesting why you might have gotten more sales is possibly the exclusivity. So, before you were on producer loops, in addition to selling it yourself, and then now you can go, oh no, you're not getting this anywhere else. You're not going to get this on Splice. You're not going to get this on producer loops. The only place you're going to get this is here, which, if you have a big enough audience, but also your audience is relatively small, but dedicated, they're all thinking, not even the biggest producers are going to have these sounds. Like, it's just going to be me. So there's something really interesting there, which I'm curious if that led to more, better results. You made more sales plus the price increase. So everything just fucking exploded.
No, yeah, that's the thing. But like I said, that month, I finally took everything seriously. So I started doing again, I already knew I was doing the content marketing. and I was like, how can I essentially apply some of the stuff I learned? So I did do a bit of email marketing in sense. I also did like a free release of the pack, like a little version of it. Again, going back to give them all the good stuff. And then, yeah, and that was the thing. So that pack definitely did really good. I can't say why, but maybe it is the price increase, you know. But again, at the end of the day with the pack, I was just trying to make something good that people will use and they will like, because I used a lot of sample packs before that were not up to par to what I would feel would be a good pack. And that's what I was trying to improve on, right? Solve something in that space. But yeah, from there I just released more packs and again niching them down. So that festival, it was called Festival Revolution. I started niching everything down like that. So that was like a big room pack. Let's say mainstream EDM at the time. From there, all the other packs started coming, and I started noticing niche it down. I think that could have also played a bigger role in the sales as well, because every pack before that was just like a preset pack for a synth, but it was all over the place. It was like deep house, trance, big room, blah blah blah. And I felt like, people buying this, they're gonna be like, well, I'm getting all these sounds, but they're only gonna use 2 or 3 in there. Now with the more niche down packs, I know they're gonna use most of the stuff in there, and it also brings a big thing as well, because it also makes it easier for me to know what these people want. So when you niche it down, that's the big thing. I know, okay, if I'm making a Hexagon Revolution pack, all right, these guys are all about Don Diablo and the Hexagon label, so I know what kind of leads is gonna tickle them in the right way. They're gonna be like, oh yeah, fuck. So that's like another big thing that comes with it, man.
I love that. I love that you saw, okay, well, let me niche these down and see what happens. And yeah, you're going to get a lot more people who want more of the sounds. They're going to utilize it a lot more often, and everything within it too. And you're probably going to see more. I like what you said though, is people want something specific, and that's true. If I'm a big room producer, I want every sound to be the best big room sound that I have ever heard. So when you make a niche down pack like that, you're really delivering through and through results that are great. I mean, you know what to expect every single time. And so you're going to make mega fans with that type of content, because if they bought one, take for me, for instance, I use that fucking Hexagon pack every single time. So now I know if I go to Evo Sounds and I see a sound pack I've been producing a lot of trance recently. So if I see a trance one specific for epic trance or whatever, I know what to expect. I know they're going to be really good fucking sounds that I'm going to utilize. And that's just because for the past year and a half, I've been using the same fucking sound pack almost every goddamn track. So, I really do like that. That is really interesting. That's super important. It's almost like you have niched your business down to EDM producers, but then you can almost niche it down further to specific genres, specific types of producers, whatever it is.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. And, if we get even further into it, essentially what I am is a sound designer, and also a producer. But at this point, I think I'm more of a sound designer than a producer. What I've started to notice is going back to what you were saying about getting low quality tracks when you're charging less, right? The thing is, a lot of the younger producers, I hate to say it, because some people say, oh, he sells sound banks and sample packs. He's just saying that because he wants more sales and he wants people to use them. But they do play a huge role, man. Like, seriously, if you're making a tech house track or if you're making a trance track, the type of kicks, the type of claps, the type of open hats you use, they play a huge difference, right? So, for instance, if you're trying to mix like a trance track and the guy decides to put a damn 808 kick, like a boom, boom, instead of the right kick, how the hell are you going to mix that? So again, niching it down even further for me also guarantees that I'm giving these guys good content that's going to make their music sound better right at the get-go. I'm making kicks specific for the genre. Again, a lot of these guys don't know that the kick plays a huge role in the mix. If you have the wrong kick, it like ruins the track. But the moment you switch that kick, it's like the track changes and now it's like, whoa, what did you do? I'm like, I just switched out the kick, man.
Dude, yeah, for real. I love what you're saying. It's so true. I mean, you're giving away really good content that's accurate. Like, you're giving accurate results. You're telling people, hey, you use this sound pack, or this pack in general with samples and sounds, you're going to be able to make a full trance track with this through and through. That's going to be accurate. That kick thing is super important. There's a number of times my buddy Noah, who I'll send tracks to have him take a listen, and he'll say the same thing. He's like, you're using a house kick. Like, this is not, this isn't a deep, big, hard kind of resonant kick that you should be using for trance, or like an epic trance one. Like, this isn't the right kick. Like, you gotta switch that out. And I switch it out and I go, wow, okay, that's completely different now. That is, the sound completely changes. So
yeah, that's the thing. So that's the biggest thing. The more I get, the thing is I'm always improving, production wise and sound design wise. So as I improve production wise, I'm going like, you know what? The sounds matter a lot. Like, seriously, and this is what I teach people as well. I always tell them the sounds you pick are pretty much half of the mix, in my opinion. If you're picking like a heavily distorted lead, putting it with a heavily distorted bass and heavily distorted drums, how are you going to expect all of that to work? So again, going back, it's the sounds play a huge role in that. And again, I'm not saying it just to be like, hey, go buy some packs from Evo and sounds.com. No, it's truthfully that's the biggest thing, man. Like, and again, that's something I'm glad I can offer people. And the more I'm doing it, the more I'm starting to realize how important that is.
Yeah, it is very important, the sound design aspect. It's something, what I was taught. So I joined Ilgate's producer dojo for a little while and was checking that out. And he talks about doing sound design, having days where you're just doing sound design, or just a session, where you spend an hour to two. And what that does is, one, you obviously learn better sound design. You also learn how to make sounds work with each other, and you'll always have fresh new sounds for your next session. And this is something that I quickly learned, yes, is very true, and it's something that I also try to teach as many producers as possible. And when you start doing that, you do realize how important sound design it is. Such a major part of sound selection is such a major part of production and mixing. And when you figure that out, your world changes, and suddenly you want to spend more time on sound design. And as you start spending more time on sound design, which is partially why I wanted to have you in here, is you start building up these massive banks of sounds that no one has but you. And if you're a producer who's wanting to be full-time, if you're wanting to make money, if you're wanting to tour, you're wanting to do all these things, it used to be 10 years ago, you could just do that. You could just DJ. You could just be a DJ. And then all of a sudden people were producing is like, okay, now you have to write music. And now we're in this weird stage within the last 5 years or so, where it's no longer you can just be a DJ and just be a producer. You have to be so much more than that. You have to be doing something that can help supplement what you're wanting to do. Now, I say it through, like, very consistently, I say it. Not everyone's like, you will get the 1% of people who can just be a producer. And then they learn how to DJ and they have all these fans and they're touring and that's all they're doing. That happens. There are the Martin Garrixes. There are the Hardwells. There are these people who will be huge. And a lot of that has to do with either, maybe they have a family member involved in the business, or they know people. And so they can really get jumped in front of a lot of people and just do that. However, for the sheer majority of us, we're going to have to find something that can help supplement our career, that we're going to love, and that still applies to what we're doing. So sound design is a big one that I talk about in my podcast. Now, I haven't had a sound designer on here who does that stuff full time, so I'm very happy you're the one on here talking about this, because it's a possibility for almost every producer, especially if you're improving and you're constantly working on sound design. You can, and with things like Splice, like you were saying before, you saw a point where, okay, these guys aren't adding enough value to me and I'm losing out on this income. Let me take this leap in this direction and see what happens. And it was probably the best decision you could have made. And like you mentioned earlier, similar to producers releasing on a record label, it comes down to, okay, do you just want to make the sound pack? Just make the sound pack and put it on Splice and promote it a little bit and see what happens, or get these contracts with these other businesses. You can do that to dip your foot in the water and see how it is. And then, this is something I talk about with producers and record labels a lot, is whether or not they want to self-release or release with a record label. And really, it comes down to how much work do you want to put in. If you want to self-release, you have to be prepared to come up with like a 6-week promo plan, either like pre-release and post-release. Get some videos together, get some, if you want to run some ad campaigns, like you have to get all this stuff together, follow through with that promo plan, and it could very well work out for you. Like you could get a really good track that gets traction. You get 10, 20,000 listens, you're playlisted, and you get all of the royalties from that. But also, you got to look at how much time did you spend on that. So if you don't want to do that, if you'd rather save your time, that's why you'd want to go with a record label, because the majority of the time, the record label is going to help out with that sort of stuff. It's the same thing with business, especially with sound design businesses. You have third-party companies that are sitting and waiting for you to bring your sound pack to them so they can collect passive income. And it's the same with you as well. Like you can create passive income with this sort of stuff. Relatively, because I'm sure there's a time frame where the sound pack kind of dies off and you have to release a new one. But you can just release with these companies, take a cut, take a pay cut, percentage cut, and that's good. There's a lot of different avenues that you can take is the point. And if you're doing sound design, if you're a producer not doing sound design, one, I do think you should go buy sound packs because you can hear and, reverse engineer sounds to see how producers are making stuff. But still, you should definitely be making your own sounds. There's a lot of opportunity to improve your tracks with your own sound, but then also build up a bank to promote, sell. I'm a huge proponent of collecting emails for email lists, and there's not a better thing to do than give out free sounds for collecting emails. It's one of the tactics I use it. I have a sound pack that's 90 sounds for Serum that I'm running ads at on Facebook almost consistently. Like, hey, here's 90 sounds for free. Just give me your email. And then I'm going to give you really good value in my email list. And then you'll get my marketing email and hopefully you'll buy into my product.
Yeah, definitely, man. Yeah, to me, try the email marketing thing out as well. The thing with me, it's more like I love what I do, and it's like I know I should be doing like email marketing, throwing ads on stuff, but like going back to when I read those books, that's where I learned that stuff. I think the one that spoke to me more was the content marketing. I hate, and that's just me personally, I hate like shoving my product down people's throats constantly. I'm not gonna name who, but there's some companies out there that just take it a little overboard with that. And every person I talk to that's a producer and we get into discussions like this, they always bring it up and they're like, yeah, fucking annoying. I just wanted the pack and now I'm getting constantly bombarded. So that's just me though. Like I personally hate doing that. So I stick with, like you said, just content, giving them good content on YouTube and on Instagram, value. I read a book, like I said, and that's where I learned majority of this stuff. Even though I was already doing it, I just finally put like a name to it and like to the strategy. But I guess people also feel thankful that, hey, I owe this guy a lot, and they want to help you out. They want to support you as well. So for me, that is like the biggest way for me that I sell sound banks. YouTube videos, Instagram videos with good information. I don't sell the pack like that. I say, hey, so I'm using this pack. You want to support me? The best way to do it, if you like the sounds in the video, you can see yourself using it, right? And they just, again, they see it. They see, okay, wow, this guy did it really fast, made it look so easy. Maybe I need his pack. I'm going to help him out. And that works for me really well.
So Graham Cochran, who I was telling you about before, if you guys don't know who Graham Cochran is, he started the Recording Revolution, which is a course all about recording musicians and artists and whatnot, instruments. And he made 7 figures off of that business. Wildly successful. This is this is the strategy that he talks about. He's like, he tells everyone, screw paid advertising, all like content is king. Gary Vee talks about this a lot, but Graham Cochran especially, that's how he got his business so successful. So I think it was back in like 2010 or 2011. He decided he was going to create 35-minute videos and release a video every single day, teaching someone something new about mixing, about mastering, about recording, and post them on YouTube for 30 days. And this blew up. I mean, it was getting sent everywhere. His account blew up, and through this, he realized there's a lot of value in content. So he started doubling down on that, and that's how he runs all of his businesses. He doesn't run any paid marketing. It is just through content.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I see, first off, it's free. You're just investing your time. And again, I feel like the value and the way you generate those sales, you're more likely to get a super fan and people that vibe with it. Like, they'll support you. They become super fans, as you would say, right? And they share.
Those who care share.
Yeah, there you go. That's a good. Those who care share. Yeah, man. Honestly, that's just my, like, again, I love that style that he did, and maybe I did learn a bit from him because I used to watch some of his videos, even though I don't record stuff. But I know who he is. I've seen his videos. They have a lot of views, and yeah, I could definitely see that, man. It's good to hear that's the strategy for all.
Yeah, that's all he does. You should check out. So, there's something about us producers that I talk about a lot. And that's the fact that we feel like we need to do it all and be it all. We need to do all of the sound design. We need to make all of our own samples. We need to mix it all. We need to master it all. We need to promote it all. We need to do everything. And I'm very much so against doing every single thing. I think it's important to find what you're really good at, double down on that, find out what you're weak in, and either give that to someone else to handle. Outsource it. Do whatever you can to not have to do the stuff you suck at and just focus on what you're good at, because that's going to always bring you up way higher than trying to bring everything so even keel. So you mentioning, like, I've tried email. I feel like I need to do email marketing. I feel like I need to do one. You found what works. Stick with that. And so there's a book you should read called The One Thing by Gary Keller, I think. I'll put it in the show notes, but I'll also send you a link to a copy of it. Really good book, and it's basically talking about, do you know about the 80-20 principle?
No.
So the 80-20 principle is another really good book that you should read, I think by Richard Koch, I believe. But it's about this theory that is pretty much set in stone. It's almost true through and through. You could have 95-5, you could have 90-10, but there's always this principle that's broken down, usually on average 80-20. So 20% of what you're doing is causing like 80% of your success. And then 80% of what you're doing and then you can do the flip side of like 20% of what you're doing is causing 80% of your stress. And so you want to find out where these 80-20s lie. And basically the 20% that is giving you a majority of your success, just dive into that, because you can cut out 80% of the bullshit and focus in on the one thing. And then this book, The One Thing, takes the 80-20 principle and then breaks that down into like another 80-20. So you can find the one thing you can do that's going to give you ultimately the most success possible. And I mean, you pretty much have found your one thing, which is YouTube. And YouTube is so a lot of my business is based around content, just providing value. I am so about providing value. This podcast is about providing value. The articles I write are about providing value. My emails, almost everything is about providing value because I want to help out other producers. And my next stage is going to be YouTube at some point. I'm going to have to transition because video is content king, and it's just improving. But you got into a game, I think probably early on. Perfect point. I mean, YouTube is, you talk about this, people creating super fans, people feeling like they owe you. And there's this reciprocity rule
That's what it's called.
Yeah. In marketing, where it's very much so like I was talking about in the webinar, when they give you the best free piece of content, when you give away a lot of really good free content, psychologically, what happens with a lot of people, whether they realize it or not, they feel they are indebted to you in some sense of the word. There was testing done actually in this office where this guy, they had a couple of different test groups where they were going to ask for a favor. One of the test groups would go in and just ask for the favor from someone, and it was something like 80% of it got struck down. They said no. But then they had another test group where this guy would go in and bring a soda, and they would give the soda to the person and say, hey, here you go. Or they would make them a cup of coffee. They would just bring something in that they didn't expect and give it to them for free. And then they asked for the favor, and the success rate, instead of being like 80% no, it was more like 80% yes, because they felt they were indebted whether or not they actually really were or not. So that's what you kind of drive to with this with content and providing value, is people will feel they almost feel indebted. They're like, this person has helped, they've taken the time to help me out. The least I could do is buy their product or support them in X, Y, or Z. So you're nailing on something really key there, and it is that reciprocity rule of creating YouTube videos.
No, yeah, that's the thing. That's why, like you said, started early on. Lately, I've been noticing a lot of DJs, producers, and dance music have started making videos now. It could be because of that, mainly, creating super fans, and again, providing content so people indulge in their music as well. And that's the big thing. So I've been seeing a lot of producers now on Instagram, TikTok, doing their thing, and yeah, I think it's smart, man. It's definitely smart. Not that educated on that, but if it's working for them, it's working for them.
Yeah. And you kind of hit on something early on, is you saw where you saw in your career where you might be lacking it, and it was the audience. You're like, I need an audience. How can I create an audience? And you're like, YouTube.
Exactly.
Great tutorial videos. And then, I mean, it sets it in stone right there. And you have an audience. If you release a track, you can say, hey, I've got this track I released. I bet you've got almost instantly a specific amount of views, because you have a specific amount of super fans that are going to listen to it every single time.
Exactly. My thing, if we take away the sound design aspect of it, let's say I wanted to make money from music now, is how valuable is the audience I have already, right? Because I see it. I don't know if this is a mistake from a lot of producers or not. Maybe you can give your input on it. But when I have students saying I want to do content marketing, because I do talk to them about it, they always ask me what they should be doing. The problem with I see is a lot of them cater to other producers. So I don't know if that's the right way to take it. You know what I mean? Like, they'll make like posts about like how to mix and all. I'm like, well, how is that gonna bring the audience you want?
Yes.
Right? So when I see people doing that and they're just promoting music, I feel like it's a little bit wasted time. In all honesty, the ones I feel, and again, not educated, it's just hunch, the ones that work best are the ones creating content with their music and content with their knowledge of production, and making content that is enjoyable for even the average person that doesn't make music to indulge, right? That they're going to like it. So remixes, fun little videos where like, I'm going to flip this sample and it's like 30 seconds, sorry. I feel those are the best, but I don't know if
I agree. No, 100%. So there's a couple of different types of value that you can provide to people. Now, you and I, we cater to a very specific, we know who our target audience is.
Yeah.
We know who we need to be purchasing our sound, or, your sound packs, my mixing and mastering services. So we're going to cater to a very specific audience. Your YouTube channel, you're going to give away your best knowledge. This is how I made this sound design, or this sound. And so they'll recreate it, but then they'll go, like the webinar, free content, what's in the paid one? Let me get that. I can reverse engineer whatever. At that point, You don't care. You've made the sale. And so you don't care that they're reverse engineering your sound or not. They're utilizing some sort of skill set that you've been able to teach them. You'd still care about them.
Oh yeah. No, I care about the people.
Yeah.
As long as I'm providing value, that's the important thing. So going back, you say reverse engineer presets. Totally agree. They can do that. But the other thing I notice, with business, you always want to solve a problem, or as the way I teach my kids, you want to make someone's life easier or save them time. That's what I feel like I'm doing for people.
Yeah.
Saving them time. A lot of these sounds in these packs sometimes that I make, I take hours to learn how to make them or recreate them from their favorite artist. And again, I'm doing all that, and that's time they're going to be saving, because they could go in, they're like, oh, that's how that sound is made. Rather than them going 8 hours, 10 hours, just trying to figure it out for themselves.
For
right?
one sound, and
For
then they
one.
go, oh, there's 80 more. You know what? I'd rather just spend the $40 or $50 on the whole pack, and then I can dive right into making a really good track.
Exactly.
Going back to the types of value, though, like I said, we know our target audience, so we're gonna cater to that audience. You know, this podcast is for EDM producers, the business industry, about the business industry. Now, if you're just a producer wanting to be a DJ, the best person that I can point to, which this was actually in a meetup group that I was in. My buddy Alex, he goes by Losh, Lowsh. If anyone's listening right now, go on TikTok, look him up, and see how he's creating content. He's creating content way different than, you know, what we're talking about in our businesses. The type of content we're creating is accurate. We're targeting the right people. That doesn't mean that's the right target audience for you as a producer if you're just trying to get more listeners and more fans, because, you know, if you're making, like you said, these tutorial videos on production, on mixing, yes, you are getting other producers, but are you wanting them to be fans? You could get fans from them, but that's such a niche and such a tiny audience that you're focusing too much of your time on, rather than creating value in entertainment. There's a shit ton of value in entertainment. People always want to be entertained. They want to laugh. They want to cry. They want to be angry. They want these emotions drawn out of them. So if you can create that type of content, you're going to build super fans like that. Losh is a very good person to look at in terms of if you're another great one would be Dylan Francis. That's a much more common name.
Oh, yeah.
He creates super fans that never would have been super fans if he didn't create the content he created. Hilarious comedy videos. You even have some comedy videos on your YouTube channel, which are like some of your biggest ones too, it looks like. They've got over 100,000 views on some of them.
Yeah.
And Losh is doing the same thing on TikTok. He had a video go viral on TikTok that got over like 200,000 likes. I think over 1 million watches, because he was creating content that was hilarious on TikTok, and he's still doing that sort of stuff. So he's catering to the right audience.
Exactly.
And he showcases his own music in some of them as well, while also pertaining to a comical sense. So yes, you're 100% spot on. Is, you know, if you want to go this omnipresent content strategy that Frankie here has done, but you don't necessarily have a product to sell or want to sell a product, I mean, granted, your music, if you're selling your music is your product, you have to cater to that fan base. And if you got to create funny YouTube videos, you have to create funny videos to post on IGTV, on TikTok. You have to, if you want to go the content route, you have to go the entertaining route. If you're playing in front of big crowds, that's a really good way of, you can cut that stuff up into music videos or whatever, or just post a video of you playing in front of a crowd. People are going to look at that and they get the sense of, oh, I want to be a part of that group too. So I'm going to like you and follow you so I can be a part of that in circle that you're entertaining. There's a lot. Yeah. There's a lot of really interesting psychological effects that go into, gaining support and fans and, the whole marketing aspect of the industry.
No, yeah, definitely, man. And again, it's just looking at what your music is about as well. Who's gonna essentially buy your music? It's the biggest thing. So if you have a very, let's say, party-ish music you listen to when you go out and have fun with your friends, and again, you're trying to target those people, so you need to make content for that. But if you're making more serious music, like chill, like for instance, me right now, I'm making a lot of like chill, deep sort of stuff. For me, if I were to do content for that music, I would probably take a different approach to it than making videos that, again, are funny. So I'll probably make maybe I tie that a lot to nature stuff, hiking, going to beautiful places. So I could use that sort of like music and make content that will fit it. So if, let's say, I have a very chill, deep song and it sounds a little bit like Yosemite or something, then I could maybe go there and create a video based on that. I could go viral, or again, get the right demographic into it, not just not just random people that are gonna be like, this is boring.
Right. You got to
So
you got to find that target audience, and then you got to test. It's not,
yeah,
that first piece of content is never going to blow up unless you're lucky. In which case, there's your one thing. Dive into whatever that is because it worked. Otherwise, otherwise you got to kind of, spread it out, make a bunch of different types of videos, find out what works and find what's working. Let's kind of shift focus because it's been, as we're recording this, I'm kind of going over in my head. I'm like, fuck, what am I going to call this episode? Because there's a lot of we're dropping a lot of really good knowledge. It's definitely going to be based on the sound design aspect, but I'd love to shift focus over into the YouTube world because this is how you have utilized, going full time and being able to just focus on your business, which is really interesting because there's only a handful of people that I can really look at that have been able to utilize YouTube to support their career or, promote your product. So, when did you really see your YouTube channel start to blow up, and what type of content was that?
So here's the thing. YouTube channel for me has been a slow grind. It didn't blow up, but
consistency is key
grind.
too. When all the stuff we're talking about in terms of content, consistency is key.
Yeah. So for me, I think it was the biggest one was from when I shifted from trance over to what was in at the time, which was Big Room. And shifting to Big Room, that's where I saw the bigger subscribers coming in, people subscribing, more followers when I started targeting that stuff, which was the mainstream at that point. From there, I started realizing, you know what? Back then my videos looked a little crappy. Just OBS, record, info straight away, no introduction, no personality to it. And once I started adding more personality to it and started making videos like not how to get this lead, but how to use the lead as well. That's when as well, like the viewers increased and the subscribers increased like heavily. Other than that, it's just been a slow grind, man. A slow grind and trying to make stuff that I like as well. Like if I'm making a certain style of music and that's what I'm about, that's what I'm going to make. I try not to follow the trends too much because I feel like that's a one-way ticket to just hating what you're doing if you're not making the content that you like, essentially. Yeah, so mainly that's just been a slow grind. Now, going back, you said the comedy videos got a lot of plays and all that. That is true. They did. The thing I felt with the comedy videos, again, going back to hitting the right demographic, was that the comedy videos I felt like didn't really return a good ROI. So in time. So it would take me a while to make them, but I felt like the people watching those videos weren't going to be people buying and supporting the work that I do. It was more for entertainment. Yeah, it's nice to see the views and whatnot. Like, yeah, I got 100,000 views, right? But again, I didn't feel value in those people watching it. Like, it wasn't the right thing. I feel more value out of the more educational ones that I make, to be honest.
Definitely. Yeah, I can 100% agree with that. It just comes back to your target audience. Who are you? It does, it provides some value to people, but is it the right audience that you're wanting to hit on? I'm sure it was fun to film and do that sort of stuff and hang out with friends and, just enjoy yourself. But yeah, it does come down to how much time are you spending on that sort of stuff? And
exactly, man.
What is that return? Was the return worth it?
Yeah, and going back to it too, people going on YouTube right now, mainly producers going into it, just straight up trying to make money off the ads as well. I don't think that's the right way to take it because ads on YouTube have been going down. Like I get about 500,000 views a month from my videos, and I only make about 800 1,000, which to some people might be okay, that's cool, but unless you're getting in like 1 million views or 2 million per video, that's where you're going to see money that you can really sustain yourself on. So again, going back to that, the views for me were never like, oh, if I get 100,000 views, it means more sales. It's more about, again, if I get 5,000 views on a video, but the info is good and the right people are there, niching that down even further, I feel like there's more value in that. Even though that video might generate maybe like $10 instead of, like let's say 500. I know the return on investment is better because there's a product that I have tied to it now.
Yeah, there's it's the same thing with raising rates. Whenever you raise rates, there's interesting math here. So if you're charging a product that is $200, let's take mixing and mastering for instance. If you get a client let's say you're getting 2 clients per month. Each of them are paying $200 per mix and master. You're doing 2 tracks. You have to deal with 2 clients and you get $400. Now, why don't you raise your rate to $400? Because now all you need is 1 client, 1 track. That's all you have to deal with. And that's a very simplified version of that. But I mean, dumb it even down. Let's say you need to make $400 a month and you're charging $100 per track. That means you have to get 4 clients for the entire month. Now, let's double the rate. If you go to $200 per track, now you only need 2 clients. So you do 50% of the work. And dumb it down even further, go to 400. You're only working with 1 client. You're doing the one thing that you need to do. It certainly might be a little bit more difficult to find that client, but the point is you're going to make the same amount of money for less work. You can draw the exact same conclusion with your videos, where if you create, those comedy videos, sure, maybe you got an extra 1,000 subscribers through that. Maybe you're hitting your views went up, your likes went up, you're kind of in the algorithm a little bit more. That's great, but are those 1,000 people going to do anything? Now, let's say you were to make some sort of sound design tutorial and you're mentioning your products in it and you only get 10,000 views. You get maybe 50 subscribers out of that. Well, those 50 subscribers might be super fans, whereas the 1,000 were not even close to being a super fan. Those 50 subscribers are going to spend infinitely more money than those 1,000 subscribers. That is your time spent way more. There's way more value in that time spent rather than the comedic video.
Oh, right on, man. And I get comments on my videos too, and followers that I have that know me for a while, and they're like, "Yo, Zen, how do you feel like this guy getting so many plays versus you and stuff?" And I always tell them, he might be getting more than me, but I know for sure I'm making more than him. Like, it's nasty to say it that way, but
it's true. No, it comes down to that value added. Like, what are you doing to add value?
Exactly, man. It's as sad as it is for me to say it like that, because I like to be very humble about this.
Yeah, I agree.
It's like people think that success on YouTube means having millions of plays. And again, if you're in it for that, like that's the business goal, is get as many views as possible, then yeah, definitely success. But if your goal is to just sell a product or get people to know about you and high quality, again, going back to that, then I feel like, no, I'm doing better than him, because again, the videos he's making are just all over. And also a lot of people that start off and they get a lot of views, again, like when I started off, they don't really have a product to sell. And right now, the way I feel YouTube is, if you're gonna make a YouTube channel, at least have something to sell to supplement the bad ad revenue you're gonna be getting. Because again, 50,000 plays is nothing. You need millions of plays to be able to make a good living off your YouTube ad revenue, per se. So for me, it's all about that. Again, having a product, good quality that you believe in, that will help people, and then making videos to draw those right people in, rather than just drawing in like the masses.
Mm-hmm.
That's the biggest thing.
The other thing we're not hitting on too is the fulfillment of your life too. When you really shift that focus, I mean, even just 10 degrees in the other direction, where you go from, I want views to, I actually want to help people out. Like, if you are making content that's focused on views, and you make one piece of content that's more focused on helping out people, and improving their life, whether or not we're talking about production or not, that the fulfillment from that is, I mean, it is incredible when I get a new review on iTunes or wherever, or someone joins my the podcast group on Facebook, and the people are saying the nicest things, which I don't mean to, I'm not trying to toot my own horn, like you, I'm trying to be humble, but how, like, the feeling it gives you when someone's like, this is, I have learned so much. This is incredible. I'm binging the podcast because there's so much value. When they're saying stuff like that, when they're like, this is extremely valuable, that makes me want to make more that makes me want to make more episodes. It makes me want to do more and help out more people, because that is way more fulfilling to be like, you know what, I actually helped someone out today. rather than, oh, I got a bunch of views today. I mean, they're two completely different worlds, and it feels completely different.
No, it does. I agree with you. 100% on that. I always tell my wife too. I'm like, if I didn't do this for a living, I wouldn't have Instagram or Facebook or none of that. Yeah, I just don't like the whole aspect of it. You know, because sometimes I'll have videos, right, that I know are good. They don't get as many views, and I used to have issues with that, like going like, maybe I'm just not good enough. And
The imposter syndrome.
Yeah, exactly, that we were talking about before the podcast. But for me, that's just the biggest thing. So as long as I'm making good videos, I'm like, the information is super good in this video. Like I'm like, yeah. And it only gets 5,000. At least I have that satisfaction knowing that I put in all my work and the people are gonna get that value. I'm gonna help someone today.
Someone will find
thing.
it. Someone is going to find
find
it, and they're gonna find it to be very useful. I experience the same thing with, I'll have podcast episodes I do solo that I'm like, this was awesome. This is fucking great. And then it gets like the lowest views. I'm like, okay, well, a couple of things I'm being told. One, they don't really care about this topic, but, someone's going to find it. Those super fans are going to listen to it and they're going to see value in it. It's the same thing with, you've got people who have the notification bell on for you. So as soon as you upload something, they're going to jump into it and they're going to be like, this is great. This is what I needed today. And they're going to get hyped up. And they're going, I'm jumping in the studio today.
Oh yeah, definitely. So that's the biggest thing. And again, I hate putting it down to business, but biggest sales come from those videos either way. That's number one thing. So again, F the views, just good content that people want to watch. And again, you will get people interested in what you're doing eventually.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. Do you have anything else? I mean, I think we've pretty much hit on everything there, man.
Not really, man. Just, that's the biggest thing. If people get content out of this podcast, everything we talked about. But again, if you're a musician, I think YouTube, TikTok, Instagram is definitely where you want to be at and making content. Just make sure you're making the right content for it. Making the right content. For me, it makes sense to make content for producers because, again, I'm selling sound banks and samples for people, saving them time there. But if I'm making music, I'm not going to target producers. I'm going to target the demographic for that music. So, I had one student I did a session with whose name is Topic. So I'm sure many people know him now. He's on the billboards. I forgot the name of the song he just released, but it's up there. And the way he got known, he kind of sat down. He was like, this is what he told me. I looked at my demographic for this music I'm making. He's like, a bunch of it is girls. Like girls from the ages of, I think he said the ages, let's say 18 to 24. And he's like, I'm going to make a Facebook ad for my song. I think it was like some guy named Nick Santos or something. And I'm going to put $10,000 into advertising for it. And he did that. And yeah, it was spot on. Worked for him. So again, it's about having the right demographic as well, knowing what you're going to be doing with it. And again, if you want to do sound banks and stuff, that's good too. And definitely do the producer stuff, add value to the producers, right? Just know what you're going to be doing at the end of the day and who you're targeting.
And finding that, like I said earlier, finding that 80-20 principle, because it's important to, I talk about this with a lot of younger producers as well, is, don't feel like you need to niche down into one business now, or you need to niche down into one genre now. Spread it out, maybe make a couple of sound packs and send them to people, see how they react, do some mixing for some people, see how they react. Find out what you're good at, and then use the 80-20 principle to cut the rest out. Focus in on that one thing. Same thing with your demographic. That's what's really going to make you drive forward. That's going to push you through your career, is that sort of stuff.
Agreed, man. And I always tell producers, man, anywhere you can save people time and frustration, offer it. So, like, I've always had this idea. I hate working with vocals and auto-tuning them and all that. You can always offer that. Like, if you're really good at it, just tell people, hey, I'll do that for you for $100, $200.
There is I've got a buddy who does vocal production. That's what he primarily does. There's a mastery to that. You got to be like, if you spend the time to work on vocals and really get good at it. I mean, my buddy can tune up a vocal, get it prepped and ready in under an hour, a full vocal. Whereas if I were to sit there and do that, it would take me 3 days. It would not be good. So there's an art form to that. And I mean, with how many producers that send me their tracks, a lot of producers need work on vocals. So it's like, it's a product that the market, needs. The market needs more vocal producers. So, I mean, shit, I'm going to need to find a vocal producer to bring in on this episode, on a new episode.
Yeah, anything that again, it's going to save people time and make their time making music a lot more enjoyable.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
That's
and it's going to make
thing,
them sound better too.
Exactly.
This is something we were starting to close up shop, but this is something we didn't mention, but I'm curious about if you've heard of this and if you've utilized it, but making the hero's journey about your customer. So think of in Star Wars. Now, Luke is the big hero in the entire movie. Now, when you watch Star Wars, usually people resonate towards Luke. They want to be the hero of the story. So a lot of the times where business owners will fail is they think they're Luke. They think they're fighting the Empire. They think they are fighting Darth Vader and they're the hero of the journey in the story. And so they'll market their products that way, as if, if you come to me, this is like, you're not going to get a mix better anywhere else. I'm the best mixing engineer. I'm the best mastering engineer. I'm the best sound designer. You're going to get the best sound packs from me. Whereas if you were to just flip the script and go, no, they're the hero. They're Luke. I am I'm Han Solo, or I'm a side character. So I'm Chewbacca, someone that's not a primary person and, not the main character of the entire story, and the entire focus. If you shift focus, put someone else as Luke and go, you know what? If you come to me, you are going to sound incredible. Your mixes are going to sound the best that they've ever seen. Everyone's going to compliment how good you sound and how great you are. Same with your, with sound packs. If you buy my sound pack, you're going to have your tracks are going to be amazing. You are going to sound like a legend. If you just flip that script, I mean, again, talking about vibes, two completely different stories told there, two completely different vibes. Do you utilize that at all?
Yeah, I didn't know what's called a hero's journey or whatever. That's a nice way to put it. It's very nice,
very clean,
very clean, man. Yeah, you know what? I found out about copywriting, so I think that was something I saw Cymatics do first. They when I started reading the descriptions, it wasn't about what the pack had or how good the pack was. It was more about how it's gonna help you, the person that's gonna acquire the pack. So once I read that and I started realizing that's when I started doing it. So on descriptions, when I do videos or when I do like the overview for the packs, it's all about the person. Exactly. I'm not saying I'm the best sound designer in this world and you're going to sound like, Nah, it's more about, I go like, I worked really hard on these sounds and I know you guys are going to put them to good use to make good songs, full source of inspiration for you, targeting those key things that people want with sample packs and sound banks. The right sound so that they don't have to frustrate the right samples, knowing that they can trust those samples, etc. Right? So yeah, it's making it about them. I started realizing that too because I was like, back then I used to do testimonials as well. Like I had like a couple of people that I would try and get to do testimonials for the pack, saying stuff like, oh, this is a good pack and whatnot, which whatever. I didn't feel value in that at all. I was like, I guess, that's a bit of, what's the term? Validation to it. Mm-hmm. Like it lets people know, hey,
social proof.
It's social. That's the best way. Social proof. But to me, it just didn't feel like it was doing a lot. Like, who cares? I'm like, they care more about what they're going to do.
Right. It's almost better to showcase the sounds themselves. If you can pull a quick track together and be like, this is what these sounds sound like in a full track. And then you shift it to like, I trust that you're going to be able to get inspired enough to utilize these sounds so that your track is going to sound so much better.
Exactly. Make it about them.
So. Yep. All about that hero's journey. Awesome. Well, dude, do you have anything to plug?
Just, if you make dance music, tech house mainly, that's what I've been doing a lot recently and I love. I do have a couple of sound sets that you guys can check out. If you like the sounds you hear and are looking for some, check them out. Support me. In anywhere form, or you can just check out the videos.
What's your website?
evosounds.com, evosounds.com. Not evil, because some people think it's evil, but
EVO. And I'll
EVO.
all these links will be in the show notes for you guys too at enviousaudio.com/episode 38. Obviously check out your YouTube channel if you haven't. Zen World. Funny enough. So I'll tell a quick little story. When I first started producing, I had these mentors who would mix and master all my tracks for free for me. And I got to sit in on the sessions, and they would show me how to do everything. And so that's where I learned I didn't really learn much about mastering. I would just watch how it was done, and I had an idea of it. But when I launched my mixing and mastering studio 2 years ago, I went to you. You have a mastering video that you have on. It's a very basic one. But that's the video that I watched, and I basically took what I knew from my mentors and then took your video, merged them together. And that's how I started mastering for clients 2 years ago.
Oh, man.
So you are part of the reason why I'm here today with a studio. So funny enough, there's a story there.
Yeah, that mastering video, man. I don't know how I feel about the content in it. That OTT in there, I still question it to this day, but
it's people. I think a lot of our producers don't understand the with mastering, everything is just little touch, just a little tiny bit if you're doing anything. And so a lot of producers overdo OTT and just general. And then if you tell them to, hey, try OTT and mastering, that might be a lot. Whoa, pump the brakes there.
No, exactly. But that OTT, I don't know. I've seen it come up. I do educate myself. I have subscription to Sonic Academy, which is a good website for tutorials. And I've seen it come up a lot. Some people are starting to use it on their masters. Again, lightly, 10, 6%, because it adds a really nice shine to the
nice harmonics. It gives you really nice, crispy harmonics, especially up in the higher frequency range. I use a little bit of saturation in conjunction with OTT, and it really brightens everything up and adding just very slight layers without actually boosting, the highs way up with an EQ or something.
No, yeah. I just call it the Elon Musk. I call that. When I see that, you're trying to go to the moon.
Yeah.
With that EQ. So.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Oh,
there you go, man.
Frankie, thank you so much for hanging out, dude. This was awesome, super insightful. We'll have to stay in touch, and
definitely.
Dude, keep killing it. You are pushing the business world of the EDM industry, and I'm loving it, dude. Keep up with it.
Appreciate you. Thank you for having me. It's nice talking here.
All right, take care, dude.
Take care.
Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed that episode. That was a ton of fun hanging out with Frankie. I know he's got a shit ton of great videos. I'm sure a lot of you who are listening to this have watched some of his videos, and you may have even probably used some of his sounds, whether you realize it or not, even if you just grabbed them off Splice or wherever. But if you guys want to check out some more of his stuff, I will have all of the links on the show notes at enviousaudio.com/episode 38. I'll have his YouTube channel, Evo Sounds website, all of that information, so you can go check it out. If you don't know who he is, highly recommend pretty much everything he's doing on YouTube. As always, head to facebook.com and join the Facebook community, Electronic Dance Money Community. Say what's up. If you have any questions or you need any help with anything, make a post in there. There's plenty of people. A lot of the guests who have been on this podcast are in that group. They are more than willing to answer any questions, help you out with anything. Other than that, take care. Hope you guys have a great day, whatever day it is, and I'll see you next time.